Hey guys, it's Mr. Sarley. Welcome to your 7th grade homework math review on YouTube, and happy Halloween. So take a look at these first answers, but first, our secret word is just going to be ghost. And then for these first 9 answers, we have 5/10, 7/100. Actually, I'm not going to read them all. You can look at them. Here's the answers at the bottom of the front. And for this, you were coming up with your own, so I didn't actually write down any of the answers. So if any part of this was confusing, please continue watching. All right, so on this part, we were taking fractions and decimals and converting them in between each other. This is going to be really important with integers because we're going to need to be able to solve problems with fractions or decimals. Remember that decimals really are fractions. They're just written in a different form. So if you have a decimal, the first number after the decimal place is known as the tenths place, and the place value after that is known as the hundredths place. So when we start off with 5/10, the work's pretty much done for us because we can basically just put a 5 in the tenths place. So this would be no holes and a 5 in the tenths place, and you would read it as 5/10. Similarly, this one is 7/100. I know that hundredths is the second place value after the decimal, so I'm going to do 0/10 and 7/100. For 38/100, basically what we'd be doing is making sure that the last number goes to the hundredths place. So you would write it like this, 38/100. All right, when you get to fractions that aren't tenths or hundredths or thousandths, you have to turn them into tenths or hundredths or thousandths in order to write it as a decimal. But there's also another trick you can think about money. So 1/4 is one of those easy ones because you can think a fourth is the same as a quarter, and in cents, a quarter is 25 cents. But you could have also known that 4 goes into 100 25 times, and 1 times 25 is 25, and that's another reason why 1/4 is the same as 25/100. With 2/5, we can't just do 0.2 because that would mean 2/10. So basically, we have to find an equivalent fraction to 2/5. So I know that 5 is a factor of 10, and if you multiply the numerator and denominator by 2, you'd get 4/10. And so now I just need to take this and write it in decimal form, which is 4/10. All right, for these first 5 problems, you see how they all start with a 0? That's because all we have is a fractional part, or something smaller than 1. But we can also take something like a mixed number and write it as a decimal. So here, there's a 6 in the ones place. It's almost like up on our diagram up here. This place, the ones place, can be filled with numbers other than 0. It could be filled with, in this case, a 6. So we have a 6, and now the 3/10, I just have to put the 3 in the tenths place, which is right after the decimal point. All right, so 9.5 is similar. I'm going to start with a 9 in the ones place, but then I just need to write 1/2 as a decimal. You could think, what's half of a dollar? That's 50 cents, so you could write it like that. You could also say, well, 1/2 is equivalent to how many tenths? Well, 2 is a factor of 10 if I multiply by 5. Oh, 5/10. So you could also have written 9.5 or 9 and 5/10. These two, it's a little equal sign, are equivalent to each other. 4 and 8/10 is pretty easy. We have a 4 in the ones place and an 8 in the tenths place. And then for this last one, we have 16, so that's a 10 and 6 ones. And then we have 29/100, which you would write like this. All right, and now we're going to convert the And over here I have our ones place, our tenths place, and our hundredths place, just to kind of help us keep track of things. So here we have a 7 in the tenths place, so that's the same as 7/10. And I can write that like a fraction, 7/10. Here we have a 3 that's, a 3 that's in the hundredths place. So that would be 3/100. This number is 51/100 because the last number is in the hundredths place. So I would write that as 51/100. For this one, we have an 8 in the ones place, so that's just like 8 wholes. And I know this is going to be a mixed number because we have a whole number and a fractional part. The 0.3 is 3/10. Same thing here, this mixed number, this decimal is going to turn into a mixed number. We have a 9 in the ones place, and then we have 4/100. And finally, for the last one, we have 51 wholes and 20/100. Alright, so my iPad apparently is haunted. And so I'm going to kind of go over this quick because I'm starting to get a little freaked out. Like, get out of the way, ghost. Get smaller. Stop twisting, that's really creepy. Stop it. Alright, well for this one, you don't need too much of me anyway, because you're coming up with your own ways to break these numbers apart. So, 2 3/4, you could think of that as a whole and 3/4. You could think of each whole as being 4/4, and you could have written this expression. And you could have also kind of broken it up in other strange ways, like maybe done 2/4 and 2/4, and then 4/4 and 3/4. I just kind of want to see the different ways that you can break up these fractions and these decimals. Actually, it's getting creepier, but alright, just to break apart the decimals, you could do something like this. I bet someone's going to do something like this. But let's see what else you can come up with. Oh, that's really creepy. Okay, I gotta go. Good luck.